Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I am headed out the door to check out the new action film, A Working Man. A Working Man is starring Jason Statham and it's directed by David Ayer. It tells the story of a man who used to be part of a counterterrorism team, and he decides that he's had enough of the violence and all of that, and decides to settle down, take care of his kid, and try to be a good dad. He takes a job at a local construction site. And then the people who own this construction company, their daughter is kidnapped. And they ask this man to help them find their daughter. Guys, this looks like it's going to be a bare-knuckle brawl Jason Statham action film. And honestly, I am on board for that. I think Jason Statham is one of the most consistent action stars out there. Every one of his films is pretty solid, especially the ones that he completely stars in. I'm not talking about The Expendables. Let's not get into that. But this movie, however, looks like it is going to be an absolute blast, and I am looking forward to getting out there and seeing a really good bare-knuckle brawler action film. So you know what? It is enough of me sitting here jibber-jabbering on. It's time for me to get out the door because I need to go see A Working Man. Welcome back, just getting home from A Working Man. And guys, I had a blast with this movie. This film was a complete and total popcorn action film. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into the positives, then end the video on the ever so important high note. Okay, so if you go into this film thinking it's something that's going to be like John Wick, you're going to be a little disappointed, because yes, it has the violence and all the great fight scenarios and so on as John Wick, but if you're looking for that style, flash, and flair, this movie isn't that movie. This is a bare-knuckles, downright dirty, brawler, bloody film. There is a lot of really cool fight sequences and a lot of really great action, but it doesn't have all that polish and flair that you would find in something like John Wick. Also, this movie is really, really cheesy, which I think the film meant to be that way because you can tell the actors are just kind of having a lot of fun with their roles, mostly the villains in this story. He's going up against some mobsters, and these guys are those kind of mobsters that have those weird little quirks, like, you know, they're wearing fashion that's kind of not necessarily out of style, but it's not necessarily something us normal folk would be wearing, walking around in, to where they almost look like superhero villains or something like that. That kind of cheesy stuff where someone's like, "My son, you've killed my son! No!" That kind of stuff is in this movie. This is just an absolute fun little throwback kind of action film. And if that's not something you enjoy, if you don't like a very run-of-the-mill kind of action film that you just want to be fueled with watching some really great fight scenarios, some great shootouts, some little, quirky one-liners, fun characters and things of that sort, then yeah, you're probably going to enjoy this movie. But if you take this film way too serious, you're probably going to think it's one of the dumber movies you've seen so far in 2025. But I honestly think that the film is trying to be self-aware. I think the movie knows that it's being silly with its villains especially, and I think that's alright. But if you're someone who can't take it, I can get that. This movie is also a very, very basic story. There's not a lot going on here. This is very simple. A man's daughter is missing. He goes to his friend that he knows is an ex-military special ops expert and says, "Hey, the cops aren't working with me. My friend, can you save my daughter?" And of course he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go get her. That's it. That's the story. I just explained the entire movie to you. Now, there's some other stuff that happens, but if you're expecting character growth and a world full of lore and cool places, this is not the movie. This is just I'm gonna get your daughter at any freaking cost, and I don't care who gets in my way. Now, if these are things that are just like deal breakers for you, I still say give this movie a shot on streaming services, but let's get into the positives. First off, I just want to talk about Jason Statham because I think Jason Statham is one of the best action stars in the business today, and he really shows off in this movie. He is very authentic when he portrays his characters, and as I've said before, he's not just a great action star, he's also got pretty decent acting chops to match. Now, this is a very typical Jason Statham character. There's a whole lot of grunting and witty one-liners after he takes someone out, but if you like that sort of thing, you're going to have a blast. Basically, if you're a fan of Jason Statham movies and you know what you're getting yourself into, you're probably going to have a lot of fun with this movie. This is the kind of film that I see the future of having like a 47% on Rotten Tomato, but a audience percentage of like 97 or something like that. This film is an absolute crowd pleaser, fun little action film. And there was a pretty good sized audience at this theater, so to be perfectly honest, for an afternoon movie on a Friday, I was kind of surprised. So it might not do half bad in theaters. I mean, Jason Statham does know how to pull people in. The fight sequences in this film are extremely well done. The hand-to-hand combat is great. It's extremely well filmed. You get to see a lot of the action. They don't use shaky cam techniques or anything. This film is mostly done almost like a kung fu movie because of the way it's filmed, because they make sure that you get to see everything that Jason Statham is doing rather than just like shaking the cam a whole lot to make it look like there's a really cool fight going on, or using a bunch of quick cuts throughout the entire sequence. This film allows you to see all the action as it's happening, and I really love that about it. The runtime on this film wasn't very long. I don't really know exactly what the runtime was, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't feel like I was in there a really long time because the pacing really moved along quite well. This is just one of those types of movies where our main character gets a bit of information, he goes to a location to try to get more information. Oh no, those bad guys are being difficult with him. Guess he's just gonna have to murder everybody in the room, and that just goes to the next scenario, and that's how this movie flows. I honestly thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the pacing kept with the action. I thought the down times where we kind of take a moment to take a breath didn't slow things down in the least. In fact, there were moments where I'm like, kind of glad we're taking a break right now. I could use it. All in all, guys, I have to say that this was an absolute blast, fun, popcorn action film. If you're someone who is a big action fan like myself, you're probably going to find a lot of fun in this movie, and you should probably check it out in theaters. If you're someone that's kind of on the fence, but you really love the John Wick movies and some of the more action that you've seen here lately, check this movie out on streaming, or maybe go to the theater and check it out. Who am I to judge? But yeah, definitely give this one a chance, even though it's a throwback action film, because in all honesty, if you haven't really watched some of those old action films, this is a really great introduction so you can know what those films are like, and then go back and watch something like Commando, then have some real fun. Alright guys, thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.